ไปบอมนอมจูนโลกเนียงจิตติเมตรัยดับจะไปสลับปังโดนตาจองเลิกตุ่มนวลสัตว์ไปหมอกบรณีจุนมีลูกเย่ลูกตาตุ่มนวลสัตว์ไปขนองกัมพูชีโลกเนียงดังเสกได้ปัจจุบันในขนองไอ้กัมพูชีจอมจะเวทนีสมบัติปีไกลบวชมวยทมกรมหุนจังไรกับกชกาไปแดนได้พิเศษไปเชื่อไปสรองต้องโชยมสัตว์ตัวใจยมหอรันทึกเกยโดยสาปูชมวยกับขมิ้นกับไงกับปรึกสัตว์ไพโวvựcดีจมรกเกยกับประโยคได้ลุปูจิได้โลเมียนโซดอสัตว์เอาไว้ประเจีจวนกะเสกกรอไกรคลารัวปึงปรีแดนปปตาไอเลนิกสัตว์หายเอาปรีขยมมาไอเกโดนตานาคอมแทรสากึดกับชกาประโยชน์ไปกือไปหนึ่งสัตว์อุปงไงคณีสัตว์เวทเนียไปรำเพิงเอาไว้สัตว์รำเพิงเอาไว้มวยไงเมียนโรงเมียนเครื่องจักรจานไปไกลขอมปรังประไลกับชกายโยอันเตียกายดาสัตว์เมียนจระวะจวบโยกตัวบริภพมาจับสำหรับยกตัวบริภพปลุกแต่จำเนื้อตัวสัตว์ไปงันคลาไงบานหบสัตว์ไปเมียนพบสำนางกลายปลุกไปเวชงันบองโอนนายขยมสมในยัยอมปีไปย่อยสัตว์ไปบันทึกตัวจ้าโลกใส่โปรโจลพิจาสัตว์ไปเจียสัตว์เกบิโดนบิตากลมยลจะล้อมถ้าหบตื้อปือกำลังสัตว์ไปหนึ่งไปเชื่อเมียนสาระสำคัญในนะลูกเมนจ่าโจลจองจำสัตว์ไปอากัดบนทอยกาใช้ไปนมชีวิตเจียดได้นุบานพอลดำนำช่วยอ้อยดำเชยยืงลุดลัวบานทมทอดนี่ยมสมบัญเจียสัตว์ไปรวมจำนายดอลเอโกเตสจอทมเจียดบานประโจเจียดปรุงสัตว์ไปบาสันยืงกับยืงไงจะยืงสำลา ធម្មជាតិនេះខ្ញុំបាទសូមនិយាយមិនប្រៀបធៀបនៅកម្ពុជាកំពុងប្រទេសកំពុងទៅជួបអីកុលយុគកាត់ឡើងសន្ធឹកចាប់សត្វព្រៃធ្វើជាសាច់ញាតិចឹងហើយខ្ញុំសូមសំណុំឲ្យពោរដ្ឋាភិបាលក្នុងកម្ពុជាបើស្រឡាញ់ឯប្រិស័ទកម្ពុជាយើងនាំគ្នាដោះស្រាយទៅអ្នកមានស័ក្តិមានអំណាចអេតកតខ្លាចរំលោភសិទ្ធិមនុស្សខ្មែរជាទូជាទៅប្លន់យកដៃរះប្លន់ទីរំនៅឲ្យបងប្អូនណៃខ្មែរគាត់បានរស់នៅគឺថាពុំសូវសុខសប្បាយមានការបង្ហែបង្ហោចូលទឹកភ្នែកមិនខុសពីសត្វព្រៃអុញប្រមាណណាខ្ញុំបាទជ្រៀងនេះមិនមែនកំ ប្លែងពោពេញទៅដោយទុកសង្រេងគឺថានិយាយអំពីការរកដំណោះស្រាយមួយទៀតនិយាយហើយនិយាយទៀតបច្ចុប្បន្ននេះនៅក្នុងកម្ពុជានិយាយចំយើងមានបញ្ឆិតមានបញ្ឈៀងគឺថាយើងកំពុងតែបាត់បង់សត្វព្រៃច្រើនជាអណែកមានសត្វជ្រូកសត្វទីងសត្វលមាំងលមាសប្រុសតំសងក្តងគោព្រៃសត្វកងកក្តាន់ស្វាលីឥឡូវកតិកទីព្រោះគ្មានព្រៃបើសិនជាបាត់សត្វទាំងអស់នឹងណៃតើយើងនឹងបាត់បង់សម្បត្តិធម្មជាតិដ៏អស្ចារ្យមួយទៀតព្រៃឈើព្រៃស្រោងឥឡូវខ្ញុំនិយាយទៅតាមបណ្ដាសហគមន៍ខេត្តនានាមានបន្ទាយមានជ័យមានភ្នំតាម៉ៅជាដើមកំពុងតែរងការកាប់បំផ្លាញយ៉ាងសកម្មឈូសឆាយដើម្បីបានដៃលក់ជាឯកជនប្រមូលប្រាក់ជាតិប្រមូលទ្រព្យសម្បត្តិជាតិធ្វើជារបស់ខ្លួនណាអស់ហើយបងប្អូនណៃបើយើងមិនដឹងខ្លួនសម្បត្តិអាគេអករបស់ខ្លួនបែរមកត្រូវឈ្នួញទុច្ចរិតបំផ្លាញណាដើមឈើបណិតជាដើមឥឡូវសូមនិយាយអំពីឈើបណិតដែលជន់អ៊ុក្រិតកាប់បំផ្លាញមានដើមធ្នង់ដើមកគីដើមនាងនួនច្រើនអស្ចារ្យត្រូវបាញ់ឈ្មួញកាប់លក់ច្រើនយហូចយហែអិតខ្មាស់ខ្មែរគេវាដូនតាឥឡូវจะไปខ្ញុំបានរៀបរាប់មិនបានចប់សពមុខអ្វីបានត្រឹម10នាទីផ្លាយអញ្ចឹងអស់ញាតិទាំងឡាយសូមអភ័យបើមានខ្វះខាតនៃពាក្យសម្ដីសូមទានបណៃដល់ខ្ញុំផងពីមុនធ្លាប់ច្រៀងកំប្លោកកំប្លែងតាក់ទិនត្រែងម្នាក់ម្នាក់ឥឡូវបែបបើមានទុកពេញក្នុងដួងใจមិនអាចសម្ដែងភាពរីករាយបានអ្វីមុននឹងจะไปសូមបញ្ចប់ខ្ញុំសូមគោរពជូនពរជ័យអស់លោកអស់អ្នកទាំងប្រុសទាំងស្រីកម្ពុជាថៃបានសុខសប្បាយកុំអោយមានទុក្ខកាយមានសោកកុំអោយមានរោគមានអាសន្ននៃភ័យចឹងខ្ញុំបាទអ្នកจะไปសូមលើកដៃគោរពកៃលីអាយ៉ាអាយគោរពលី
everyone. So I'm gonna just briefly and read the script for the song for you. Okay, so for the first song, for the lady song, they sing about on the farmer advice. So I think the song to advise everyone to remember that do not believe the company of using the new seed in farming. This is the trick to decide us because the new seed cannot be maintained whenever we need. We have to buy it again while you lost the traditional one. The price keep rising and it is the time for the investor to make their own profit. They never stop exploiting and the people never stop suffering. The new seed change the way we grow. So let things again. When we use the traditional seed, we are never hungry. Please considering it again. When we use the new seed, we have to use chemical fertilizer and insecticide. It infertile our cell and it harm our health as well. The price of the chemical fertilizer is the ball cost. The farmer cannot survive because the soil is depleted. We use natural, when we use the natural fertilizer, when we do the farming, but now we receive in using chemical fertilizer, we have to pay a lot of money. Though we have to borrow from the bank and deal with a mortgage loan every year. When we cannot pay them back, we have to deal the mortgage and sell our land. So please let us know whether it is a karma or a trick. This is how privatization works. Everyone, please remember that. This is so bad. When it's come, it creates the chaos to our people and make our people poor. And they have nothing to eat, and it is because of their trick. This is the trick of the rich country to the poor country. So for the boy with the instrument, I just briefly for the meaning. So the title is The Suffering of the Forest and the Wild Animal in Cambodia. So the forest is cutting by the company for using the land as their own profit. And the wild animal has no shelter. The wild animal has died because of the people hunting them for the food. And the people, they believe that the animal forest is very good taste and also healthy. So please do not think about it. Please remind it again. And also he think about the benefit of the forest and animal to the farming and ecology. Also to request the government to protect the forest and wild animal and also things about their own people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you to the messenger band and our musicians, and also Polly for giving a brief summary. So up next is an opening remarks of May 2022 to be given by three speakers, คุณ ปรามฤดี ดาวเรือง Professor Walden Bello, and Mrs. Shui Meng Ng, who will give a speech online. So for now, can I invite คุณ ปรามฤดี and Professor Walden Bello on the stage? So the first to speak is none other than the other is our big sister, คุณ ปรามฤดี ดาวเรือง. Priority is the coordinator and the founder of Project Seminar, Southeast Asia, and Laotian Investment Monitor. Project Seminar and LDIM initiated and organized MEL since 2019. So, คุณ Priority, the floor is yours.
morning, everyone. Let me start with my 5-minute short greeting to all of you. First of all, welcome all of you again to this MAO 2022. I would like to especially thank you all the friends who have traveled all the way, from especially for the one who just specifically tried to join MAO 2022, that you travel all the way from the country, from Cambodia, Laos, PDR, Myanmar, the provinces in Thailand, also from Malaysia actually, and internationally, just to join us today. Thank you so much for that. Actually, when we first thinking about organizing MAO 2020, we were thinking about having it here in the Student Christian Center. Actually, it's a small, humble place that we were very familiar with, lots of green. And we will understand that this year is going to be something like a reunion, the gathering of the friends who haven't been meeting in the past 3 years because of COVID-19. And that is now happening. This year we have around 50 people actually from different countries register in advance to join MAO 2022, and we are very exciting about that. But at the same time, I'm sorry about any inconvenience because of the space that we have. Of course, the same as the other MAO, the event cannot happen without all the works of all friends. This year, we have more than 30 organizations, groups, and networks propose, organize, and create the activity in MAO. And actually, MAO this year is very special. It's happened since the end of last month, end of August, right? We have already have a pretty exciting event for 2 days at the Bangkok Art and Cultural Center, that the young activists got together and performed some art, performance, and discussion about the different issues in the Mekong region. We already have 3 film screening at the Dog Club and Pub in the center of Bangkok. And right now, since the 20, we set up the 2 exhibitions in the Bangkok Art and Cultural Center already on the struggle of the people in the Mekong and in Myanmar. You should drop by to see. And of course, we also joining with the group like Greenpeace Thailand to organize the open forum on hay pollution across the border in Southeast Asia. So the Mekong ASEAN Environmental Week, let me talk a little bit about our aims. I think the only aim that we have since the beginning when we start to have MAO in 2019 is to open more space, especially for the people who have less space, which is of course including the communities that being affected by the large-scale project or the power within the region or outside the region that having high influence into the Southeast Asia and the Mekong region. And the form of MAO have changed every year, but I think our stand remain the same. So for this year, throughout our 3 days here in the Student Christian Center, which is, we call it is the main week, I hope that among all of us, the session or the panel that will happen here going to be a very good storytelling, the true storytelling among us, and it's not going to be only the presentation but the discussion among us as well. And I think our voice have to be heard not only among us but also for the public in the region and also internationally. And with that, I would like to say thank you especially for the public broadcast service, the Thai public broadcast service or the Thai PBS, our alliance who kindly live stream our discussion. It will be throughout the 3 days. And to end this, finally, I would like to thank you again for all the panel speakers, friends who just perform the music, and I think we'll continue to perform. The exhibition organizers, the film screener, and all the people who make MAO 2020 happen and possible. And I hope we'll have a very good time together. And this year going to be another year to remember for all of us. Thank you so much. Yeah. And so after this, I play another role of the moderator of the our first discussion. I think Shui Meng is already online in the Zoom room. This morning we are going to have the two speakers. Of course, Professor Walden Bello is sitting next to me. I think most of us are knowing Walden very well. We always remember Walden as a co-founder of the Focus on the Global South, our very close friend organization. But Walden also the members of the House of the Representative in the Philippines, and of course very famous economist and academic from the Philippines who we know very well. And Walden talked with MAO, or talked in MAO more than 1 year. Last year, Walden talked to us about how ASEAN fell, or the ASEAN specifically. And I think this year, of course, we will hear different story. And as we have heard, Walden just facing some difficulty in the past month, in back to the Philippines as well. Maybe we can hear some of the story from Walden. And after Walden, I will introduce Shui Meng Ng, who is joining us by Zoom from Laos. I'll come back to her later, but let's welcome Walden to MAO. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Ng. And I'd like to thank the Mekong Environmental Action Week organizers. This has been a really regional, if not international event that has become very important for the promoting the issues that affect ASEAN and the Mekong area. And I'm very happy to be here today presenting together with Shui Meng, who is online from Laos, a good friend, and also somebody who is going to underline the issues of human rights and enforced disappearances, specifically that one that affected her partner, Sombat. And I think we will be hearing some updates on this. And of course, the messenger band gave us a very good working class perspective on what is happening in Cambodia, done through song, but something that I think helps us realize the struggle between capital and labor in Cambodia. So let me just say here that the environmental crisis in the Mekong continues to, be something, that is intensifying. And the major cause of this is the commodification of economic relations that has been brought about by a very rapacious capitalism, which has been harming not only the environment but displacing indigenous peoples and bringing very difficult times for peasants, farmers, and I think we will be hearing more about the environmental and social catastrophes that have been triggered by rapacious capitalism over the next few days. Another major crisis, of course, that people know about at this point in time that has been affecting ASEAN has been the continuing illegal regime in Myanmar that despite internal resistance from most of the people of Myanmar and international outrage, this junta continues to hang on to power. Of course, civil society has always been pushing, that the ASEAN governments take a more active role in terms of ending this illegal junta. But despite the push by civil society, most of the ASEAN governments still are not taking the active measures that are demanded of them. There have, however, been some progress recently with some governments. The Malaysian government, for instance, under the leadership of the Foreign Minister Abdullah, has broken with the other ASEAN governments in meeting with the National Unity Government that is really the representative government. And its position is that all stakeholders, including the NUG, must be part of negotiations. And I think it is the only government so far in ASEAN that has pushed this position. And although it is a small step, this position is, something that deserves support, a small but significant step. The organization I belong with, the ASEAN Parliamentarians for Human Rights, is today in New York, working with Foreign Minister of Malaysia, Abdullah, in promoting within the UN this position that a resolution to the issues in Myanmar should include negotiations with all stakeholders, including the National Unity Government, that is an entity that represents the NLD government that was illegally overthrown in 2021. The third big issue that affects all of us region-wide has been the conflicts in the South China Sea, or what we in the Philippines call the West Philippine Sea. And I would just like to devote most of my remarks to this because, as we all know, geopolitical issues have become very prominent recently. And we must not underestimate the possibility that the conflict in the South China Sea might intensify. Okay, so what do people know about the South China Sea conflict? Well, I think that most of us in ASEAN are familiar with the fact that China has asserted that about 90% of that body of water belongs to it, that this is an internal waterway, and this became the position that was articulated in what was called the 9-dash line. So despite the fact that about 6 different governments and 6 different countries border this common resource, this common area called the South China Sea, China is claiming that it belongs to China alone, or 90% of it. This is what is a very prominent sort of item in ASEAN consciousness. And it is, of course, this is an illegal act. It violates the agreement on the law of the seas that in fact says that this is a common body of water that is divided into economic zones that are economic zones that exclusive economic zones that are in fact belonging to these different countries that share it. And in 2016, there was a ruling in The Hague that basically said that there was no basis in international law for the Chinese claims. And for the last several years, there have been a number of encroachments on areas that belong to the Philippine Exclusive Economic Zone, like Scarborough Shoal, as well as Mischief Reef, encroachments on the part of China. So I think that this is what is very well known in ASEAN. And of course, the Philippines and Vietnam have been on the forefront of confronting China on this. But increasingly also countries like governments like those in Malaysia and Indonesia. But what is not well known in ASEAN is, that China's actions in the South China Sea, while illegal and are not justified, are mainly defensive in their strategic orientation. And why so? Because China is basically reacting strategically to what has been, what might be called an encirclement by U.S. military power. We are talking about 60 major bases of the United States in Japan, in South Korea, in the Philippines now. And we are talking about a big mobile floating base in the South China Sea called the Seventh Fleet, which operates out of Yokosuka but deploys ships for 10 months out of every year in the South China Sea. And now we are talking about the fact that this has now been reinforced. The US military presence has now been reinforced by forces from NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, especially forces from France and Britain, and by ships from Australia. And of course, we ask ourselves, what is the North Atlantic Treaty Organization doing in the South China Sea? Okay, so that's a big, very big question mark at this point in time. But we are talking about a strategic doctrine of the United States that's called the Air Sea Doctrine, which is, in fact, has China as its object. Basically, that in the event of war, and it is identified that the object is China, the objective is to be able to shut down Chinese intelligence capabilities, as well as to be able to wage a war that involves launching cruise missiles and other weaponry at the major infrastructural industrial infrastructure of China. And this is called the Air Sea Doctrine. And indeed, U.S. strategy has always been offensive, in contrast to the defensive orientation that even the Pentagon says is the strategic posture of China. In any event, we are to understand, therefore, that the moves of China has been mainly to push its defense perimeter outwards. And this is in order to be able to move the American military threat away, from its shores. And having the moves that it has made in terms of Scarborough Shoal, which is very near the Philippines, and Mischief Reef, which also belongs to the Philippine exclusive economic zone, must be seen as this effort to expand its defense or its defensive perimeter. So let me just say, therefore, that the claims of China don't have any basis legally, but that if we take the whole perspective, we can understand why it has moved in this fashion. We can indefensible, but understandable strategically. And now, so what we then have is a situation that is very volatile in this area. The problem is there are no rules of the game, okay? Because the United States, for one, from the very beginning has said that we really don't need any kind of multilateral treaty like NATO in Asia, because the only one that can assure the military peace in the area is U.S. military force. And indeed, that's almost like quoting some president in the United States, not a right-wing president, but Mr. President Bill Clinton, okay? Because back in the 1990s, when there was a move from ASEAN that let us have some sort of multilateral rules of the game that everybody can respect, Clinton's response was to say, we don't need that, because the only assurance, real assurance of peace is provided by U.S. military power, okay? So what we now have is a situation where we don't have any rules of the game. It is pure balance of power. And we all know that if you just engage in balance of power, it continues to escalate and escalate and escalate. So we all know what happened in Europe in 1914. They also said you don't really need a treaty, you just need a balance of power. In 1914, war erupted. Now, right now, this is the situation. We have American and Chinese ships playing a game of chicken. What is chicken? Okay, this is sort of a 1950s type game that used to be played by American teenagers, in which cars try to go at each other, and the one who swerves at the last minute to avoid conflict is said to be chicken. That is happening right now in the South China Sea. Not only with respect to ships, where Chinese and US ships sort of play this game, but also with respect to airplanes. You know, so that you swerve at the last minute, okay? And this is, you know, of course, a very dangerous kind of game. The Vietnamese, when I visited Vietnam as a member of the Philippine parliamentary delegation, the House of Representatives in 2014, the Vietnamese basically said to me, look, the situation is that we could have a situation whereby there is a collision of ships because of this game of chicken, but what happens is because there are no rules of the game, what you can have is that it could escalate very fast to a higher form of conflict, to conventional war, precisely because there are no rules of the game. So this is now the volatile situation that we see here. Now, over the last, since Trump took office in the United States, the US declared economic war on China. That is, trade war. But what we also saw is that in the last years of the Trump administration, yes, they deployed in the Pacific intermediate nuclear weapons directed at China. Okay? Now, under Biden, that has now escalated. Under President Biden, who people thought would diffuse conflict, in fact, has escalated the war rhetoric or the militant rhetoric against China. And what did we see just last month? A very, very provocative move, you know, which was, despite the fact, you know, that the U.S. says it only recognizes one China, Nancy Pelosi, the House of Representatives Speaker, went to Taiwan in a very provocative move to say basically that to the Chinese that, look, you can't do anything about this, you know. If you dare to invade, the U.S., you know, is here. If you dare to take over this territory that belongs to China, the U.S. will be here. And in the recent, just last week, Biden has already said that the United States will militarily come to the assistance of China in the event of conflict. This is a reversal of the whole one China policy that began back, you know, when with Jimmy Carter back in the 1970s. So this is how volatile the situation is, and why peace is extremely important. Not only peace in Europe, not only peace in the Ukraine, okay, but we must eliminate the causes of war in the Asia-Pacific region, and we must absolutely move to make sure that provocative moves like that the United States is engaged in at this point in time, you know, don't escalate into war. And let us not underestimate, as the Vietnamese told me in 2014, let us not underestimate how events can become quickly uncontrolled. Uncontrolled. So, and I will just like to end with this, that civil society has, of course, not been silent on these issues. There have been a number of proposals as to how we can diffuse the conflict. We really need, you know, for ASEAN and China to be able to come to an agreement around governing, you know, the ships and ship movements in the area. I myself wrote back in 2016 a three-phase plan whereby China and the United States and ASEAN can in fact de-escalate tensions which could result in a denuclearization and demilitarization of the South China Sea. One which would include the withdrawal of U.S. bases in the area. So I would just therefore like to say, you know, here, ending there, that it's not just the environment that is in danger. It is not just social and economic issues that threaten people's lives and make it difficult. It is the very situation of peace that is hangs in the balance at this point in time. And we really need to move very quickly to diffuse the sources of conflict. Because as the Vietnamese told me back in 2014, you may think that things can be controlled, but let us not underestimate how quickly events can escalate. And before you know it, you have a war on your hands. Okay? And let me just say that many of us did not know what would happen when Nancy Pelosi went, because it was such a provocative move, and people were asking themselves, is China going to take this sitting down? And so, you know, it was restraint on the part of Beijing. And I think that restraint was good. It happened then. But that cannot be assumed to be happening all the time, especially when you have already, with the Speaker of the House of Representatives of the United States telling China, you cannot do anything about this. We will have our military forces in your Taiwan. Then it becomes a question of national honor. And as we all know, when things become a question of national honor, they become uncontrolled. So with that, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Warden. I think, Warden have told us the issues or the story that actually we are not oftenly here, I think. And we were asking Warden from before, specifically trying to talking about the geopolitics, which is many of our friends here mentioned that it's a very hot issues in the region. And I don't think I have to wrap up or summarize what Warden just said. Tomorrow, Warden will have to travel again, so I think let's allow one or two questions in relate to what Warden just said. If you have any burning questions for him, please, before we move to Shui Meng. Or the comment, this is going to be a little bit of the different keynote because we allowed questions as well. All right. Please, ค่ะ คุณวิทูลค่ะ Can somebody give him the microphone?
Hi, Warden. I would like you to also just take a brief to give us a little bit of geopolitics that taking Mekong as a center. I mean, you have explained us about the South China Sea, but what about the Mekong? What's going on now in terms of the geopolitics?
Well, thank you for the question, Witun. I think that I think when it comes to the Mekong, the issues become very much geoeconomic. Because I do feel that when we come to the Mekong, we see certain the issues of investments, the issues whether it's state enterprises or private enterprises. Let me just say that this has become a major issue when it has come to Chinese investments, for instance. And I think Cambodia, and the kind of issues that have emerged here with respect to both state enterprises and private enterprises, in terms of Chinese investment, have become a very sore point, as our Cambodian friends will be telling us. But let me just say also that when it comes to Myanmar, I think the geoeconomic issues are also very central because despite the fact that this is a renegade regime that has taken over in Myanmar, displacing the legally elected government, despite the fact that most other countries and certainly within ASEAN, there has been tremendous worry about what has happened there. China has, in fact, not made any statement that would distance itself from this illegal regime. I have not seen any statement on the part of China, but indeed, what you've had is Chinese behavior that basically says that nothing really has happened that would interrupt our economic and diplomatic relations with Myanmar. And I think, that this is a green signal. This is sort of, a signal to the regime that, as far as we're concerned, you can do what you want. And it's basically saying that we have weighed everything, and we feel that our diplomatic relations and our economic investments and our plans, for especially our hydroelectric plans for Myanmar, are not to be interrupted. So I think that one of the things, therefore, that is very important when it comes to Myanmar at this point continues to be a tremendous pressure on the part of the international community and from ASEAN and from ASEAN civil society for China to distance itself, from this military junta in Myanmar. So I would say that this is really where the geopolitics and the geoeconomics and corporate interests really begin to intersect. And however, I think that while my comments have been focused on China, let me just say, though, that in terms of the other big interests in the area, like other countries with interest in the area, like Japan, that many of their actions with respect to Myanmar, even before the coup, many of their actions were determined by definitely economic interests. And clearly, when it came to Japan, and I think it's still pushing its coal-based energy plans for Myanmar, that it was pushing as far, as late as 2021. It was competing with the hydroelectric proposals or push by China with its so-called clean coal technology. And I think this sort of economic issues are underlining many of the political moves being taken by big powers when it comes to Myanmar at this point in time.
Thank you very much. Doesn't sound like a good news about the situation relating to the power over our region. I think we will have our next keynote speaker now, and I do hope that later on we can have an opportunity exchange with Walden once again, somewhere in other venue probably. And the issues that Walden mentioned about Japan lastly, I think there will be discussion on that in Mao as well on the 23, I think. Okay, so let me invite Shui Meng Ng, Shui Meng, who is online with us from Laos today. Again, I think most of us have heard her name or knowing her. Ng Shui Meng is a wife of Som Pon, who was facing the enforced disappearance since 2012. And last year, Shui Meng just released the book, a very important book called Silence of the Laotian Son, the works and the life works and enforced disappearance of Somphon. And I do believe that Shui Meng will deliver some message to us, which is in a different scale or the different area of Walden, and we do hope that she will bring us some context of the human rights that reflecting her works in the past 10 years of Somphon enforced disappearance. This year is a year 10 already. So please, Shui Meng, I think she already in Zoom, right? I cannot see.
We cannot hear you.
Speaking to you from Laos through Zoom, we will also be able to communicate and share issues. But first of all, let me thank the organizers of the Mekong ASEAN Environmental Week organizers for inviting me to speak at this event. It's the beginning of a week of interesting and inspiring activities on environmental, socio-economic challenges faced by the countries living in the Mekong Basin. And also, I would like to say hello to Walden. Haven't seen you for a long time. And thank you for sharing your perspectives on the challenges that we will face and the threats that we face today. Now, Walden has given a big, broad, macro, global sweep on the challenges and also the threats of war that we may face in our very challenging times. But today, I've been asked by the organizer to speak on a much more personal and local issue, the enforced disappearance of Sombat and what I have experienced, and also my experience of the human rights violations in Laos and also in our region. But let me tell you very briefly a little about what happened to my husband Sombat Somphon and how he was disappeared and why this issue is relevant to what you young people have come together to review and to address. So who is Sombat and how is he disappeared? Sombat is the eldest son of a poor Lao farming family. He returned to Laos after his studies in agronomy from the United States around 1980. He returned to Laos only with a very simple aspiration. That is to use what he had learned and studied and apply his skills and experience to improve the livelihoods of poor farming communities and families, just like the one he grew up in. So over the next 30 years, Sombat worked in community development issues. He learned and listened to the rural folks about their difficulties, their pressing problems, and also what aspects of improvements they needed. He worked closely with them and introduced different environmentally friendly and appropriate technologies to improve agriculture production and livelihoods. He also used life skills approaches to improve the education of young people. Over the years, his work gained recognition and appreciation by local governments and local communities, and also within the networks of local CSOs in the region. He also inspired many young people to join him and to work in the local communities. After more than 30 years of work, Sombat became recognized as Laos' leading community and youth development worker. Unfortunately, on December 2012, he was enforced disappeared. He was abducted in front of a police post and taken away, never to be heard of or seen again. But there are videotapes recording the incidents around his abduction, which showed how Sombat was actually taken away by the police. In December this year, it would be the 10th anniversary of Sombat's disappearance. And over the last 10 years, I have done everything I could to try and get the Lao authorities and the security establishment to give me information about what happened to Sombat, where was he taken, and to have him released. But I have only been confronted with denials by the Lao government establishment that they have abducted Sombat. The crime of enforced disappearance, I'm sad to say, occur fairly frequently in the Mekong region countries, and it continues to happen today. Also, enforced disappearance is mostly perpetrated in this region by state authorities. It is used as an extrajudicial tool to silence critics or people who are deemed obstructive to the development of political policies of the ruling elite. Most of the victims of enforced disappearance in the region are therefore ordinary people who are social activists, educators, farmer leaders, religious leaders, writers, journalists, lawyers, and environmentalists. You can say they are all human rights defenders working to uphold and defend the rights of the local communities, the poor and the marginalized. The issues they focus may vary, but they are all linked to promoting and defending the rights of people. Much of Sombat's work on community development and agriculture takes him directly to confront issues of land, forests, and rivers, and people's rights of access to these resources. It also takes him to confront issues of protection of their natural resources from destruction and unsafe use. More directly, it took him to confront the government's economic agenda of turning land to capital, or a short form of inviting foreign and local capitalists to invest in large agro-industries and large infrastructure projects like the building of dams, or more recently, the building of one of the railways within the One Belt, One Road initiative of China. Such investments and land use transformation invariably involve conceding away large tracts of land, forests, and rivers, and also frequently displacement of communities to give way to these projects. And even if the communities are not displaced, they face many restrictions on their traditional rights to access the use of these natural resources. As a community development worker, Sombat could not sit idly and ignore the violations of the rights of the rural people and see the people's livelihoods and homes destroyed in such an unjust manner. He took a two-pronged approach to deal with this issue. He and his team started to educate people on land rights according to the law and how they can use their land titles to demand for just compensation if they face evictions. He also wrote papers and gave talks on the environmental costs of large-scale projects and the need for proper environmental assessments and mitigation measures prior to launching of such projects. Even though his approach was quite soft and non-confrontational and was not directly in opposition to the Lao government's policies, his actions were obviously deemed unacceptable, and hence he was disappeared. Inside Laos, Somba's disappearance had attracted a lot of global attention, and up to today, it is still being raised within human rights circles. But many other cases and many kinds of human rights violations in Laos today have been silenced and or forgotten. The UN has recorded more than 60 cases of enforced disappearances in Laos alone. But there are many, many more cases in the region, numbering up to thousands in many countries. And many victims of the disappeared have received no answers to what happened to them, and their cases remained unresolved for decades. And this is why the issue of enforced disappearance is an issue that is relevant to the discussion and activities of the Mekong ASEAN Environmental Week. All rights issues, whether they are about environmental justice, climate justice, access to use of natural resources, are all interlinked and interdependent. And so are these issues linked to the broader global issues of national competition, global competition, and even the threat of war that Walden spoke about. So, in order to deal with these issues, I think we should, whether they are local, regional, or global, we must take an integrated and collective approach. I think, from my perspective, over the last 3 years, as Walden has highlighted at a much more macro and global level, we have seen major retreats in human rights and major acceleration of human rights violations all across the region and also globally. Some of these issues and challenges are linked to the global pandemic of COVID-19 since 2019, and now even made worse by the war in Ukraine. As country after country closed their borders and instituted stringent lockdown policies, all aspects of social and economic life have been affected. Communities became isolated, families are separated, and all forms of social, economic, and cultural activities have come to a halt. People's attention are directed more and more towards personal safety and well-being, with many struggling with individual and family economic issues. All these badly affected the operations of many CSOs and mass movements. Face-to-face interactions and gatherings become highly restricted and limited, thereby severely curtailing the opportunity for activists to meet, discuss, and take collective actions against issues of right violations and state intimidations, either at the local level or at the regional level. On a personal level, over the past 3 years, I have found it more and more difficult to advocate and rally attention for the unresolved case of Sombat's disappearance. This is because the ability to meet with local, regional, and international rights groups and attend advocacy meetings and conferences on such issues have largely ceased. Although some groups have tried to bridge the gap by holding Zoom meetings like what we are doing now, I personally find such meetings as not being as effective as face-to-face interactions. Now, with the retreat of the COVID pandemic and the reopening of borders of many countries, it is time to reignite our activism and continue our work, whether at the community level or the regional level or at the global level. We will need to come out with actionable strategies and appropriate for our times. I believe this week's activities of the Mekong ASEAN Environmental Week will provide many opportunities for those gathered here in person or in virtual form to address some of these issues and come up with creative solutions. Despite the difficulties and challenges and seeming erosion of democratic rights and escalations of human rights violations over the past few years, the COVID-19 challenges has also shone light on the frailties of the current economic and political models of development we have in the region. More and more people have become aware of the threats of system collapse brought about by climate change and the economic shutdown that we have faced over the past 3 years. Many are questioning the sustainability of the current model of development and its reliance of large foreign trade investments and mass exploitation and consumption and large infrastructure development. Many people are turning more and more to local solutions and new forms of production, especially new forms of finding solutions for local food and material sufficiency. We hope this trend will grow. It is an optimistic hope, a hope that the trend will gather momentum and will point the way towards more positive change and a regaining of our activism. Also, hopefully, it will point to a more sustainable future for our communities and for our region. But on the wider threats, as mentioned by Walden, we will need also to see how we, as individuals, as groups, in our own communities, in our region, can act and hopefully avoid the mass destruction, which will certainly come about if we have a major war. For me, I would like to at least end with this optimistic hope, for it would mean that the lifelong work of Sombat will have some meaning, and his personal sacrifice has not been in vain. Thank you, and have a very good week.
Thank you. I think you can see all of us now, Shui Meng. We are here. Yes, many of us. Thank you so much for giving us a always precise, clear message, that you have. And I think for this time, especially, Shui Meng has helped us to bringing the issues of environment, into the, scene as well. I mean, in mixing with the human rights issues and, of course, with the Ai Sombat issues that we have been facing in the past 10 years. I think I will allow a couple questions now, or the greetings to Shui Meng from us. I think many of us who are sitting here, old friends of Shui Meng and Ai Sombat. If you would like to say something or to ask the question, please go ahead. We have this few minutes before we have a short break. Actually, today we are going to have a little bit of the late lunch. Yeah, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your testimony and your comments and your hopeful views. I was wondering, I'm coming from France, I'm a journalist, and I was wondering whether since the last 10 years there have been some other figures that are taking on after some bad model, in Laos. Thank you.
There have been other disappearances before and also after what happened to Sombat. In Laos, because the media is totally controlled by the state and by a very, very restrictive access to news, issues of enforced disappearances or violations of people taken away and face long jail terms. Many of such news only is being leaked through by word of mouth or sometimes appear in social media. I think there are a number of people who were actually taken away. Some have been disappeared. The number is unknown. After the collapse of the Nam Pien Dam, because they came out asking for actions to compensate their loss of land and homes as a result of the dam collapse, I think now 3 years ago. Many of the people have been evicted and moved, and many of them have actually left the community because the areas they have been moved to are not able to sustain their livelihoods. So some of the critics I have heard have been taken away. Some for, just to be warned, and some have been returned. But I think the more vocal activists have not returned. But the biggest example is a young woman who has come out. Her name is Mui. She has criticized the government's inaction on resettling the people and raised issues of the difficulties faced by the people whose lives have been completely torn apart because of the Saddle Dam collapse. And she has been taken to jail. She has been disappeared for a while, but later resurfaced and been charged for undermining state security and subversion, and is now still in jail with a 14 years sentence. That's the most prominent case that I know of. There also have been a well-known case of a Lao activist in Thailand. On his return to Laos, he has been disappeared, and nobody at this point knew where he was. He has been taken.
Yes? Some more?
Sorry, just a follow-up question. What about your personal security, safety for yourself? You can be outspoken to the international audience? And do you have any concern about your security?
I have to clarify, I'm not Lao. I'm a Singapore citizen. I still hold a Singapore passport. And because the case, Sombat's case is so well known, and I have been so vocal in seeking justice and truth for him, I think to some extent, my non-silence and my vocal advocacy has given me some form of protection. If I had been silent and nobody knew knew about my situation or knew about my case, I could easily also have been taken away or declared persona non grata and told to leave Laos. I have some degree of protection, partly because the international community in Laos and also regionally and internationally know me and will certainly question if something happens to me. So in some sense, it means that speaking out can sometimes protect you, but make sure you speak out with a loud enough voice, and also speak out with loud enough support from the local, regional, and international human rights advocacy groups to provide some form of protection.
Shui Meng. I think maybe we end our session this morning now. Thank you again for your support to us and Mao. And of course, even at first we were thinking that you might be able to join us here. As you mentioned before, it would be the best to meet face to face. But I think your speak through Zoom is very valuable to our event. Thank you so much again, and hope to see you very soon. Yeah.
Thank you. And goodbye to everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much to all our three speakers for the great and powerful remark this morning. And now we are approaching to the break for 10 minutes. And just small housekeeping for you that if you want to use the toilet or restroom, please go to that building. There's more toilet and restrooms there. And also at the